Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you, as always, from the Xtreme Studios in the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have from the Great Midwest RDV, and tonight, since it's Super Bowl Sunday when this is going to drop, or some point really close to that, we're recording offline our 10 movies of 1984 that we just wanted to talk about. And as always, you guys have been mentioning to us films that you like, that you don't like, some surprise reactions, rekindling some memories of what it's like if you were like me, a child in the 80s. And unlike RDV, who was a child in the 90s, and your viewing experiences, because here on the Extreme Movie Show, that's what we like to do, is talk about what we like and don't like and share that with you and spend some time going over some films. So RDV, 1984, it's another interesting year of films. We've talked about the trend of movies going from being kind of evenly balanced with a lot of variety to kind of
Mhm.
almost going in two fields, right? The really, really lighthearted ones that are a lot of fun, like Ghostbusters, and then, of course, some of the more serious and darker ones. But 84's got some really interesting titles for it. And I know we're going to start with some runner-ups. So why don't you take a moment to explain to everybody the setup of the 10 movies that we do and how we do what we do?
Well, when it comes to these movies, we try to narrow it down to 10, but of course, there's always gonna be runners up. Like you see our number one right here for a runner up, and these are all order in. Like I said, um, these are going to be in order of them the month they're released. So there really is no least a favorite. It's just basically these are movies that between Rob and I we enjoyed,
Yep,
and they may some of them may be the top 10, some may be obscure ones.
that's correct.
And even if it is said, even if they're not a top 10, the runners up, I think they're just as equally important. That's why they're in runners up.
And also, too, RDV here on the Extreme Movie Show, again, being around for 5+ years, too, and getting an audience now, we have covered a lot of material saying we're 80s based, but we go back to the 30s and 40s
Hmm.
action classics, Humphrey Bogart, you name it. We
Yeah,
cover it, including TV shows. And so some of these we may have already done a review of, some we may re-review again as we're revisiting some old material. And so what better way to really kind of refresh everything with the new audience by going over some of the best stuff we have, which is 80s films. So I see on here we have
yep,
Blame It on Rio as a runner-up.
yes.
Yes. What's
This
your
is
initial take on this?
I've never seen it. This was your pick, so
Yes.
but I did I read the Wikipedia because I was curious,
Hmm.
and obviously we got Demi Moore, and then we got Michael Caine, and
Hmm.
then two other people I don't know who they are, but honestly I've always wanted curious to watch this movie, not because the poster, but maybe because it's Demi Moore film I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, this is one of her earlier roles, and the thing with Michael Caine, he really had been around a long time. Obviously, he's the original Carter and Get Carter, right? And Stallone did a remake of
Yep.
that some 20+ years ago. And people know Michael Caine for a long time, and he's getting long in the tooth, but he still likes to be active. What he really nailed in this movie, Blame It on Rio, was going down to Rio de Janeiro with some friends and all that, having a good time. He has a summer fling with a young woman, and it's the way it happens is somewhat innocent, if you want to say it that way, and the only way you're going to understand it is by watching the film, because in
Yes.
reality this things happens. It's not just Florida man or Florida woman teacher having sex with a 16-year-old boy that everybody freaks out about. It's the reality of how these situations happen, and they do it in a lighthearted way, but the intention is serious about it too. It's not like American Beauty where
And
everyone gagas over that. This movie's just a bit more realistic
I
to it, and we don't get a lot of films like this.
I don't blame him for going, taking they both he and his friend both take their daughters. One friend's going to divorce, and then
Yep.
he and his wife are Michael Caine and his wife are strained. She's gonna go somewhere out by herself to think, and I'm like, really? I'm like, red flags right there as it is. And of course, and then spoilers, at the end he finds out his wife, Valerie Harper, was cheating on him with his best friend, who's
I'm
there.
shocked. That
Who's
never
who
happened.
but he got his just desserts. He banged his friend's daughter.
Yeah, and it's not a revenge thing or like that. Again, the genius of
No,
Michael Caine and
yeah.
his acting here is you see how he's dealing with it, and it's not that he doesn't enjoy it, but he's uncomfortable with everything too. And so, dealing with midlife
Yes.
crisis was something that you would start to see in the '80s with movies like this and a few others too, with dealing with the family unit and everything too. But they do it in a very approachable manner without getting too. They show you what happens. They don't really moralize or preach to you.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. It really is a gem of a movie.
Yes, and Michelle Johnson, from what I can tell, reading I don't because I've only read the synopsis. It
Mhm.
sounds like she kind of basically moves on from Michael Caine because it was a fantasy because she always thought her friends friends dad was hot, so she decides to go move on. Afterwards, she meets somebody, and then at the end, it looks like Michael Caine and his wife are they're gonna work on their marriage. At this point, I'm like, No, Demi Moore was
The
the only
fickle
one.
nature of women.
Demi Moore of all of them was the only one who didn't get a booty call.
It's a cute movie. It really is.
Right.
It's sad
Uh,
that no more movies aren't made like this. It's fun.
yeah, and that came out in February 17th. So our next runner-up came out in March 2nd, and this is Spinal Tap.
Everyone likes to make the joke that this goes up to 11 and all that, but some of the best stuff is the how do I say this? I like it when they draw out the big Stonehenge thing and they're working on it. We're gonna have this as a backdrop of our stage. And then they go out there and are playing their big song Stonehenge. And then of
Yeah.
course everything comes down exactly as to it because they wrote down 24 inches instead of 24 feet or whatever. This is a parody.
Yep.
This is the only thing that if you don't watch it and don't know about it, you won't get it because it's what rock and roll was like. And now there's no rock and roll. There's no goofy tour stories because nobody goes on tour anymore and writes about it with rock and roll. It's dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this really captured what it was like being a band that really wasn't that good, but just they had a minor hit, so they toured a lot. It's a lot of fun.
I've personally never seen it, but I've heard between you and over Ian I Love Comics from people who rate like, oh, this is a very awesome, funny movie. To me, it sounds like it's just watching Airheads. That came out in the 90s. It's like you had when it came out and you were watching it, it's great. But I'm thinking for me as perspective, being the younger guy, I don't know if I'll enjoy it as much. It seems,
It's true. It's dated, but like Harry Shearer and Christopher Guest, these are old Saturday Night Live guys. These are not people that are nobodies.
Sure.
And the music is passable for what it is. And honestly, if it was on the radio today, it would be like light rock. It kind of, songs like Big Bottoms and Clamp Caravan was their second album. But
it's creative though. It's a movie about rock.
It's a mockumentary.
Mockumentary, yeah.
And it's one of the first to do that.
Yep. Our next one, this is another one of your picks. Another movie I haven't seen, but it's on the list because maybe I'll check it out. Coming out May 4th. This is Breakin'.
Wow, where did you begin? This is a canon classic. It's just a lot of fun. If you've watched anything in the 80s, you're going to see these two dancers. And of course, you know what's special about the third lady here, the third partner here, the lady. She's the ninja from the third Ninja movie, exactly, the Domination or whatever. Another canon trifecta. This is canon pretty much giving the audience exactly what they want, so much so that I think later in the year they went ahead and filmed a second one, Electric Boogaloo, which is what a lot of people like to joke and put that on as for sequels, right? This is just fun. It's pure popcorn. You don't take it too seriously. But again, like you and I talked about in movie Thunderdome with Ghostbusters, the one word that you associate the experience that people had was fun. Exact same thing with breaking. People came out of here and breakdancing was a big thing, and it was so cool to see it. And actually, if I recall correctly, I believe breakdancing is going to actually be in the Olympics this year here. And so I'm actually going to check that out and see how it is, because I've known some professional dancers over the years, and they all talk to me about how some of these guys, I think one of them still alive today. I think the guy at the top, and they'll go take lessons from him on how to do this certain kind of dance and how they do it. So they'll tell me the technique of it. And it's like, it's cool. And it was definitely a fad, but it was around for a few years. It's a great way to experience the 80s.
If it's going to be an Olympics, first of all, it has to be on the street court in like New York, in an urban area, and it has to each you
gotta have the boombox.
Yes,
no laptops.
You have the boombox, and the other person, and each person has to bring their own piece of cardboard.
Exactly. It has the right feel to it, and headband.
Yeah, yes, it has to be from an appliance
and high tops.
It's high tops. And I gotta say, this movie was referenced in Zoolander. When he says they're breakdance fighting.
Exactly.
so it is still talked about, but even though
canon films, I love you.
we need more canon films. They just feel natural, and that
we'll review this soon. We have to in the spring.
That was May 4th. So speaking of natural, that's our next one. Came out on May 11th. Geez.
Let me ask you this.
Robert Redford baseball movie.
What's your first experience with Robert Redford?
Well, I met him at a bar. No,
not that one.
Okay.
That's from Bitchute Channel.
That's on the OnlyFans. No, The Natural. As far as for me, Spy Game actually was I might have been, Spy Games with I believe was it Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
Wow. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. Anyway, but after I watched, there's another movie I watched, Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
With with Kevin Costner, and then I started watching the baseball movies, The Natural, about an aging baseball player who just wants to keep playing the game. Honestly, I love it. Robert Redford is a phenomenal actor. He's one of the last good actors of his generation, that are still acting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're retired yet,
I think he's
but
like 80 or 90 years old. He's up there,
no,
so he
no.
does very little now.
Watching him in this, or whether you're watching in 3 Days of the Condor,
Hmm.
the guy Butch Cassidy's Sundance Kid, where they both has a horrible ending. He just has that rich playboy, kind of like charm, swagger to him. He could be.
It's that boy next door, handsome,
Yes,
good-looking young man that seems like a
yes.
really nice guy, where nice is not an insult.
We just watched him in another movie where it took place in the 20s. Forgot what it's called. It was a music. It wasn't a
Sting?
music. Was it? Right. Sorry, excuse me. The Stig. Yeah. Except he's like, whether he's rich or poor, it doesn't matter. The guy has he just has that
It's a movie star
charming
face.
face.
Yeah.
Yes. Just like we look at Keanu now. Keanu's got that natural swagger too. And The Natural is a movie. If you are not only a Robert Redford fan, but you're a baseball fan, you should definitely be watching this. But even if you're not a fan, you don't really watch a lot of Robert Redford movies, or you're not into baseball. Like, I'm not a huge baseball person, but the movie was done well.
It's not a baseball movie, it's a drama. It
I
is a
know
good
it's a
introduction
drama.
to Robert Redford because he's, not young. He's not old by relative standards in terms of he'd still be acting for some time. It's one of my first experiences other than walking in on older family members, females crying over The Way We Were with Barbara Streisand, I
Mhm.
believe it was. He just is a classically handsome guy, and his flawless skin, except for once he hit 50, and then all the sun damage came out.
Yeah,
But we were talked about, and he's just a guy that's he's a dude, bro. That you go, man, I hate that motherfucker. But you're like, no, actually, he's kind of cool. Like in
yeah,
real life, once in a while you get somebody like it, and he just portrays that to the max. And he is an icon of his generation.
and
Absolutely, he is
and
in the movie industry.
can we
Nothing
be
but good
honest?
people say about him.
All baseball movies are kind of drama.
Yeah,
I don't think there's, except for Major League, which was comedy.
yeah,
All
good
right,
movie. It's a solid movie. Very
yeah.
good.
All right, our next one came out on June 8th, and that is Gremlins. One and done for me personally.
Agreed.
It's takes place during Christmas.
Thank
Is
you.
it yes. it's, it's Phoebe Cates hot in this. You got little Gizmo. People seem to love the doll, but the goblins, little gremlins that he spawns off of him, they never are clear as far as he says you don't supposed to feed them after midnight, but which midnight, which time zone? Does it change if I take him to China? Is it, or or if I go across state lines into another, like the
Yeah.
East Coast? Like, there's so much flaws with this. I'd be like, I just shoot him.
Well, and the problem with Gremlins too is, okay, as a kid, a teenager, when I saw it's a cute film. It's kind of wacky and goofy, and you get some of that from Spielberg, so that's fine. But again, these rules, it's like I like the fact there is limitations. You think about them for 1 second, you're like, this is fucking stupid, like a lot of stuff in the 80s, which is okay in some cases. But in here, watching it distracted me so much from it, I couldn't pay attention to it. It fails, unlike a movie, say, The Transporter, which had certain rules at the beginning. And The Transporter would have been a lot better if they just kind of kept to those rules, which, of course, he breaks and all that. And then, of course, you have the sequels in the franchise. So to me, I look at this movie and I go, it's a cute film. Obviously, if you love Spielberg or the type of shots that he has, it's going to have in it. It's wacky, it's goofy, I would say it's kid appropriate. I certainly don't see any issues with it. It's a one and done for me though too. I don't have zero desire to go back and watch it again. It doesn't really move me in any sort of way. It's cute, and people do mention it because it's wholesome, and the people look wholesome, and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enough of Gremlins.
Enough of Gremlins. All right.
Gremlins 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yes, the next one started. Spawned so this is another one. Our next one pick is basically, some would say, the '80s franchise that you may either loved at the time and kind of forgot about it until 2018 when it came back with a hit TV show. That is Karate Kid.
I didn't really care for it when it came out.
Honestly, I watched it. It was okay. but I think the show is way better than the movies ever were.
I agree with you, and it's the same people that are involved, and I give them credit for modernizing and aging it. I've always said this is probably one of the very few gold standards of how to treat your property, whatever you want to call it, your IP, in a very respectful way. And again, the same people that
Yeah.
wrote this and were involved in all the movies, they created a franchise. My problem was Ralph Macchio. I don't hate him. I don't like him. He's
He,
not as annoying as say Ferris Bueller's character, right? Matthew Broderick,
hashtag
to
Johnny
me.
was a victim in this movie.
Well, and that's the premise they go. But all the guys back then who were the agents said the exact same thing,
Yeah.
and that he deserved to get beat up because he's a wuss ass. Single mom syndrome starts in this movie too.
It's
But
not that he goes in and he basically goes and worms away and steals this guy's girlfriend.
exactly like a bitch instead
Yeah,
of manning
and
up and doing it head to
yeah,
head. Yeah, and all the girls just loved him, so it's an automatic hate if you're male.
yeah. It's basically the story of a kid. If you haven't watched this, go watch it at least once. Basically, as a kid that's being bullied, he's a single parent. Yes, he moves to another state. You know, he's a new kid, gets picked on, bullied on, but then he ends up being taught coyote or not coyote, but karate by Mr. Miyagi.
Coyote karate.
Yeah, from Happy Days, Arnold, or at least it wasn't he Arnold. I can't remember. It was one of the two guys. But anyway,
No, he was in Happy Days. Yeah.
yes. So honestly, this kid learns how to fight, ends up challenging Johnny Lawrence, the bad guy, Williams Zabka, and and it's not just that though. You get to learn of that not even more about Johnny Lawrence's character, how Kreese was just a dick to him and everything. Yeah. Cobra Kai, and then Kreese's character, I forgot what his name is, Martin Crowe, I think it's.
That's the actor. Yep.
The actor is a phenomenal actor, and he excels more. So basically, go back and watch. I'm gonna tell you right now. Watch the Karate Kid movies if you can. If you something like the very last one, the third or whatever it was, fourth. Yeah, the one where I had Hilary Swank, whatever that one was.
That's four.
That's four. And the only reason I say it because Cobra Kai brings back some characters from those movies. So if you're gonna get into Cobra Kai, watch these movies first, then watch Cobra Kai, which is a phenomenal series. Other than that, everybody in the 80s, wax on, wax off. That's it. No one cared about the movie.
Stupid crane kick crap.
I know. It's illegal kick. Illegal kick, says Johnny.
And look, it's a wholesome movie. It is. It's not a bad watch, but it's definitely like a 6th, 7th grade movie kind of watch.
All right. Enough of Karate Kid.
Yeah.
All right, go on to our another runner-up. This is this came out on July 20th, and it is The Last Starfighter, one of my favorite films in the 80s. People go on about the never-ending story. No, sorry, The Last Starfighter. Kid is basically plays arcade, gets thrown into basically what every kid who nerd list of Star Wars is now you're gonna pilot in the ship and save our galaxy and save our race, from this extinction. And I was like, what? That's kind of cool. We've had movies like Flight of the Navigator and stuff like that before with Fred Savage. This was a little more adult. And then excited bringing in the you had the girlfriend here too. I forgot her name was it, but honestly, this was a good movie, a good wholesome movie, and if you haven't seen it, check it out.
This is a movie. It's directed by a guy named Nick Castle. Do you know who Nick Castle is? Of course you don't.
He's related to Frank.
I'm going to punish you for that.
Yes.
Nick Castle is the original Michael Myers.
Oh, nice.
He turned into a bit of a writer and a director and all that stuff. And so when you watch this film, you go, well, it's not John Carpenter, but it looks like a John Carpenter film. There's an aesthetic to it that draws you in because the very first act going into the second is very slow and deliberate, which is different for this kind of a science fiction movie because you're not quite sure what it's about, right? But The guy who shot it is Dean Cundey, who worked with a lot of John Carpenter films, also did Back to the Future, which obviously we'll talk about later. But to me, there's something about just physically watching a movie that draws me in. And again, I always like to say with Carpenter, it's a bit of his direction, the shots he wants, but it's the way it looks. And what was intriguing to me is the setting. They're like in the middle of like Arizona, some really tiny town where there's not much going on.
Yeah.
And it's one of the first movies too that when you're watching, you don't realize, even though it's science fiction, fantasy, whatever, it's very militant because he's playing a video game in the evening and he's working on the one girl and that's it. but because he does so well at it, it's a recruiting tool by
Yep.
this force, and then all of a sudden he gets drawn into it, and you don't see it coming, and that's kind of cool to me,
Yeah,
right?
and
I
Catherine
like
Mary
that.
Stewart, who plays his girlfriend, is hot.
Yeah.
I wish she would have been in more '80s films, but
Another well, science fiction films still around in there, and you and I've covered several of them on here.
mhm,
Some were hit and misses in terms of how popular they were, but this is a solid film. And the last thing is I believe this is based off of Alan Dean Foster, who's been writing, I think, since the '60s and '70s, a lot of different things. And so this is one of the few things that came out of his repertoire that made it to the big screen. And it is a solid
yeah,
film. It's fun. It's wholesome. And Ready Player One, as horrible as it is, I mean, it's this is the recruitment video of a teenager. I mean, this is how it all starts. This is like a template for it. And I think
yeah.
movies like this later on, they try to do it. Well, it kind of goes back to this. Uh-oh, what's going on our screen? Oh, something's registering over here. Oh my God, this person's doing this. This person's doing that. Let's go find out. Let's find out who they are. It all starts from here. So it's an old concept, but you don't get to see it often. It is a good movie. It is a gem.
All right, and then going on to our next one is came out in same weekend. Revenge of the Nerds. Um,
Who doesn't
honestly,
love this movie?
I know it's a great
It's cute.
movie. Honestly, it's also got I believe it's
Ted
um,
McGinley.
Ted
That's right.
McGinley
He's good.
here too as well. Honestly, the laugh, the Lewis Skolnick, whatever his name is his laugh in this. Michael Anthony Edwards was kind of crazy seeing him in there, and
Oh, that's right. He
honestly,
is in it. Yep.
yeah, he's kind of left. He's the other one. And
Nerds became popular in the '80s,
and then the
partly
synthwave,
because of this movie.
and who doesn't love Ogre? I hate nerds. It just shows that no matter what you look like, they sometimes you have people don't know what they got until they actually sit down and actually talk to you. I know it's I guess nerds were popular, but even then, like I said, it's just overall all cast was just fun in this. And then of course you're gonna see Ogre appear in Bloodsport.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that's Ogre.
I
Well,
know.
the thing is, this movie almost makes you believe a nerd could land a
Oh,
cheerleader,
definitely.
right? I mean,
And,
get some
in
help, but
in
still.
today's age, he'd be arrested for what he did, though.
This movie, if you're young and you feel very strong about certain sensibilities, I know that this may appear dated to you because of some things that happen in
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
If you just take it as a grain of salt, as a movie trying to have fun and make the nerds look like heroes, that's really the aim of it.
yeah.
And so they make the bad guys not be intimidating, but be kind of silly. It is a comedy, and it's a dopey '80s. I don't want to say romantic comedy, but more like a sex comedy kind. It's a hijinks kind of thing. It's very juvenile in its own way, but
Uh,
again, has a good ending and has a big battle at the end where the nerds come out on top.
you
So
got
popular, it spawned a bunch of other B movies after it.
and Booger is the friend from Third Off Dead in here too. So we got some actors that can appear in some other
Yeah,
movies. So
Tim McGinley you would know from
Married with
other
Children
TV shows, but Married with Children is the
is
real
his big
popular
thing.
one for him.
Yep.
Absolutely, love
All
both too.
right. Our next one is it came out November 9th. That is a Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's.
This is a
Uh
dark movie.
it is. But it's even more creative because you learn that some of these girls are some. I guess I'm not sure if the main hero Nancy. I think she has psychic power to fight back against Freddy. And I always thought that was
Later,
kind of
I think.
later on, but I always thought that was kind of crazy when you start going the Dream Warriors by Dokken later on in the series. But
Dawkins.
Dokken, sorry. Uh, um, Still a fantastic song. And like I said, honestly, if you take a slasher and you allow people to fight back, but this is like the deaths were just so over the top, man. We talk about Jason and Mike Myers and all those characters, but Freddy he's like, you guys are children. Let me show you, I'm artiste. I don't know. It just gets more horrific each one. It gives you praise on your fears, and all this was the homeless guy who got burned down in an apartment building.
No, more than that. And that's
I
one of the
know.
problems with the Elm Street series is that by the time it got to Dream Warriors, where yeah, the kids got to maybe fight back a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Dokken at the time was a super group, and the lead singer wasn't a hardcore singer, but he's just really good singer, not a baritone or anything like that. It's certainly not metal, I would say, but Dokken was super popular. George Lynch still plays today, and he's had other groups. I mean, they're just a really great band. So when Dream Warriors came out, and I thought, what the hell is this? And so they were trying to do something different with it. But if you don't know the whole story about Freddie that you gets revealed later on, remember John Saxon's as a daddy in here too,
Yes.
is that Freddie was a boy that I think got like sexually abused or something,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
both parents
That was the
like
other thing too.
went to
Yeah.
burn him up or something. And I may be having some key facts here wrong, but there's a very dark element about it that you go, well, that explains why Freddie wants to get revenge, right? But here's the thing: in the 80s, you get to a point where you're going to have something where you take something serious like this and talk about it, but it gets glossed over because everyone's fascinated on what's the next weird kill going to be.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and really, the strength of this movie in the first two films is that it's really, really different, and the despair in them is really great. And they amp it up in the second film because one thing we've not talked a lot about here on the Extreme Movie Show, and there's different ways of talking about horror, but there's a certain gayness or queerness or whatever term you want to use, um, anti-heterosexual themes to certain horror movies for whatever reasons, because of maybe abuse or
Mhm.
sexual themes and all that too. And this is one of the movies that kind of got into it. And I've talked a little bit about rape or revenge type movies and everything too, and they're not easy to deal with.
Yeah.
This movie glosses over, unfortunately, because it's kind of deep and dark. But again, The Nightmare from a few years ago, I'm not sure if it was a reboot or a one-off. That wasn't horrible. And I forget who the actor was that was in it, but this is a movie that's despite all the sequels and what you think of them are being goofy or what you remember, it's very solid. But these first two are very strong. They're not just goofs. They're really solid movies. And Wes Craven, the guy that did Scream later, he's done a lot of this stuff. He gets a little out there.
I just remember almost tossing my cookies with the roach scene, the Roach Hotel.
Oh yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that was
Wait
I
till
hate the
wait till
fly.
we redo Creep Show.
All
Yeah. Did you like
right,
this film?
I
It's not
turned
your
it
kind
off.
of horror film,
I
I
turned
don't
it off
think.
halfway through. It's just like get to the point, man. Are you just gonna murder everybody? It's like, but once I said I go through the Wikipedia because sometimes I just can't get through the gore sometimes. So I want to still know the story. And luckily there are people who actually type out these things.
It is brutal.
It
It
is
is brutal.
ugh,
Strong female lead too.
yeah. Our next one came out a week later or so. Uh, November 16th, Missing in Action. Chuck Norris,
Chuck.
man. This is where 1984 right here with Missing Action. This is where the hoorah American, basically, the action movies started coming because Commando comes out a year later, 85.
85.
85, yeah. So Chuck Norris's Missing Action started it all off. And if anybody else says differently, let me know in the comments below because you can't convince me anyway. Missing in Action, bro. That's the we had First Blood, but Missing in Action to me is like it just seemed like after this, the year, and then finally we decided everything was just pro America. I mean, now they can say it though. They can say this is still kind of in the tone of First Blood, where we still got guys over there, government conspiracies and all that stuff, But honestly, Chuck kicks it off with this, and not much you can say about this. Then
Well, we covered a lot of Chuck Norris films when we started
yeah,
this channel, and so one of the themes is that his movies seem to get a little bit better. But he like Arnold, at some point here in the 80s, pivots to
mm-hmm.
more comedy or types of franchises that they can
Yeah,
continue. And I think for him, Chuck Norris, he has personal reasons of why he has certain things in his film, like Good Guys Wear Black and all that too. And you don't
yeah,
have to
yeah,
know
yeah.
that to appreciate it. But he's a legit guy. He's had legit people in his films. And in the 80s, coming out of the 70s, there's definitely, like I said, once Reagan got elected, there was a sense of optimism. Some people hate that, some people whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, a lot of people are very positive in America in the 80s. You had the Olympics in 84, which we just crushed everybody.
Yep.
Reagan had the biggest landslide victory of all time, even including today and all that. It's just one of those things where you even start to see sports people start wearing like POW, MIA, like headbands. Jim McMahon from the Bears comes to my immediate mind, and others. So it was a topic that, as a kid, if you're watching sports, you don't really know that. You just know it has something to do with war. So how serious should you take it when you're watching sports? And Chuck Norris, he put his money where his mouth is. It was a very personal subject for him, so he decided to do it. And believe it or not, Cannon Group said, we're going to dump all this money with Chuck Norris, give him what he wants so he can make the films that he wants. Cannon
Yep.
didn't really do that with a lot of actors, but this definitely was, again, a Canon classic. This is probably one of Canon's better films, not just in terms of how much money made, but it's fucking
Hmm.
Chuck Norris. It gives him credibility with it too. It's a good movie, and it's not something that gets talked about today, the Vietnam War or anything. Not certainly not, a generation later, but definitely in a lot of people's minds. And if you're an older person and all that, it'll mean a lot more to you rather than just being, oh, they're going to go save some people. Even today, right? What is it, Black Hawk Down and a few other
Yeah.
movies here and there, it just doesn't have the same sense of emotional impact. Like, you know what, the government fucked us. Let's go get our boys back because we're all brothers. You don't
Hmm.
get that in films with war today. At least I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. All right. And then not more I can say about this. I said it's a good movie. Chuck Norris, uh, Vietnam stuff, POW. All right. Our next one came out, well, the same week. Night of the Comet.
Oh, we've reviewed this. You're the
Yeah,
one
we
that
have.
actually got me into this because I
Yeah.
don't recall seeing it at the time, and I enjoyed this a lot. This is a good film.
This is a really good film. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be zombies, but it's something. A comet goes by every year, and people start acting kind of crazy, kind of creepy.
Right.
And these two girls, these two popular, I wouldn't say they're popular, but I mean like they're the Valley Girls,
Oh my
and
God.
cheerleaders, and all of a sudden something happens, and basically it's a desert town, ghost town, and come around, they basically meet this guy, and they can't know if they can trust him or not, but they go to this DJ booth just trying to get a signal so they can reach people because they hear somebody talking on the radio, and it is just a good movie. I don't want to say any much more than that. I want you guys to go watch it if you haven't watched it.
It's a movie that definitely feels like an '80s film. We can always talk about zombie apocalypses and end of the world kind of stuff
Hmm.
and all that too. I don't know how hardcore this is, but there's a group of films that nobody will ever remember about the '80s. This is one of them for whatever reason,
And
but it's a good film.
do you know who else is in here too? This is Captain Mary Stewart from The Last Starfighter.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
She's
guess,
so hot right now. She
yeah,
blew up.
yeah. She's on it. She's on two of her runners up, man. Like I said, uh, she did well in this movie. And
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if they'll ever reboot this, but I mean, I wouldn't be offended if they rebooted it. But as long as they kept the premise or basically of the same thing. Now, I don't want any of these is today's politics, gender fluid, all the weird shit. If you're gonna do a reboot of it, maybe have it set in a normal, basic universe where none of that exists. No one knows about this, and keep it limited. I'd say do a reboot of an '80s film in the '80s. This is their version.
I was very surprised by, say, the phone or whatever it is, or the black phone or whatever the
Yeah.
hell it was, with
Yep.
whatever with the kid and the phone ring, because they set that in the time, and they did a good job of nailing the atmosphere of that time.
Yep.
The phone thing was kind of weird, but the other thing that was prevalent about this movie was Haley's Comet was going to be coming, I think, in February-ish
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
'86. So it's one of those, either you're old enough where you're going to get a chance to see it once, or you're born at a year where you might not get to see it, or you might be dead before it comes around. So it was definitely a thing because it was kind of always up there in the sky, and it's one of the first really major events. But it also, I think, started planting the seeds in the back of the mind of something that would come 10 to 15 years later, when the internet started blowing up and people could
Hmm.
communicate that way. And that would be what's going to happen in 2000 with the
Well,
computers and the end of days and all that stuff, and
I
TV shows like Millennium and the Prophecy and all that. This is a lighthearted thing at it, but hey,
no.
comets are mysterious and they were worshipped and all that too. But that's not what the movie about. It's just
It's
goofy Valley Girl
we've
stuff.
had other movies where meteorites crash into people's farm, and then they get to their drinking water and they start going crazy, killing each other. I think that was The Color Purple. I think it was. I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, you said,
Yeah,
what if this isn't a normal, comet? What if this is something else? Diseases coming from, we don't know. But
it's a good film.
it's science fiction. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, our next one, we just did a review of this in December.
This is our last runner-up.
No, we got two more after this. Real quick, we're gonna go
Gotcha.
quickly. And go check out a review of this. But this is December 5th, came out '84. This is Beverly Hills Cop. Like I said, we just did a review of this. Go check that out. Fantastic Four of 19 from coming out this year, but sadly, it did not make into our top 10 list.
Good film. Peak Eddie Murphy, still a good watch today.
And all right, so go check out the review. It's on the channel. All right, and our next runner-up is our second but final. That's the final list. This came out in December 21st, and ironically said, I think this movie comes out the next year. No, it came out the same year.
Yeah, boy.
It was so great they had to make 2 movies in 1 year.
That's smart. No, the first one came out, and when you get pictures on the news of people standing around the corner to walk in and see any show of break-in, like some movies were that way.
Yeah,
very few of them, but some of them were. They said, "Hey, we got to capitalize on this right now."
These are low budget too, so it didn't take that much to film these.
Exactly, and we get Jean-Claude in the first one too in the background.
Yeah, I see his dance in the background, and it's like, he's doing his dance from Kickboxer.
Yeah. This one, they try to be a little bit more serious with the dancing, like I think from her perspective, and so they end up trying to. It's the street way versus the proper way, and the street way I guess wins, and I really don't care for it, but Electric Boogaloo, just so you know,
it's like West Side Story, and then they start dancing. It's just like I think it's the one, I don't remember which one it was, but I saw a clip where they're all standing around. They're like in would be like under a bridge, somewhere over there, back alleyway, and you just start, the guy shows up and then he's like starts and they start dancing against each other, and he kind of at the end he's like walks away from him. Get this, I was just like, really?
Oh yeah.
It's I guess said.
What better way to settle your disputes than a dance-off?
It seems so made up, but I can believe this being a thing in the 80s where people are doing dance-offs.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the whole "you got served" bit, which is a tremendous line. It's on my short list of all-time greats, which is really stupid.
Yeah.
But I mean, think of like Step Up with what's his face, Channing Tatum. Excellent dancer. I think his dancing's gone downhill over the years, or he doesn't put really any effort into it, or whatever you want to call it, or maybe he's drunk. But bottom line is hey, there's a market for these types of things. Step Up has a lot of movies in it. Breakin', thank you for Breakin' for doing that.
He kind of lost his groove when he got divorced from that hot piece of ass. Okay.
Thank you, Canon Films.
All right, our last runner-up, Johnny Dangerously. I wouldn't say it's the best, but I would say it is a definitely funny movie, and you should at least watch it once.
I never thought Michael Keaton was funny. Never thought I didn't like him, but I was indifferent with all the films he was in. Mr. Mom, this, all of them. I'm just like, I don't see it. He's just sort of there to me.
I had more fun with Night Shift than I did with this movie.
Yeah,
but it's still a good movie though.
Joe Piscopo's in here too. Remember that guy?
Yeah. Yes. And Tom DeLuise and Danny DeVito.
It was very popular.
And Jake Butkus. We can't forget about him.
We can, because we're going to go into our 10 films.
All right. The first of the top 10 right here.
We just go in chronological order with the time they were dropped, so it's not
exactly. February 17th is Footloose.
Good film.
Very great film.
Classic film.
Yes.
You know what that is on his hip?
That is a Walkman, sir. A Sony Walkman. Cassette player.
You go.
Yes. Like I said, small town. No, everybody. If you don't know this movie, I'm not gonna explain it to you. You're gonna go watch it. Yeah. Kid goes to town. Dancing is outlawed. John Lithgow, priest's daughter, hot. Sean Penn's brother, Chris. And then we have, I forgot. She's married. Sarah Jessica Parker is in here too as well. Dancing. Let's hear it for the boys. Let's go. They're number 2.
Footloose is if you're like me as a kid and you heard a lot of music in the 70s and you get older, if you watched Archer from 10, 12 years ago, whenever it came out, 2008, 2010, they always made fun of, I don't want to say made fun of, but they made sure to include zones of danger, making fun of Kenny Loggins because of, the danger zone and all that stuff there too. But Kenny Loggins is an incredibly musician. He's got a lot of great music, and he has the theme song to this. It's catchy. It's fun. It is what it is. It's people love this film.
All right. Our number 2 is going against all odds.
Oh, wow. Wow. Look at the dark hair. Look at that sexy skin. And then there's Rachel Ward.
Yes.
2 hot people. This is The Old Man, by the way, the Hulu show that we reviewed here with Jeff Bridges. Yep. He plays a a semi-retired football. He's a retired guy that needs money from the football player. So a guy on a team's like, "Hey, my bitch ran off. Go get her for me," right? And the
Yep.
bad guy is James Woods. So you're like, "Oh, this is fucking good." So there's the
Yes.
manly thing to it. But while he's down here, there he bones her, and so he doesn't want to come back. So they're kind of like, "Well, this is a fantasy. We know it's not the right thing. We're away."
Yeah.
She ends up going back and all that too. And of course, Phil Collins does the song, and this is lampooned and American
Mhm.
Psycho a little bit. Rachel Ward, I was crushed on her for a long time too. This is just a great romantic film. It's good. It's beautiful vistas and beaches and all that. I've been wanting to review this for so long.
Maybe we'll do that after we're done with the 80s because I've seen this movie recently. It is a good movie.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very good.
And any movie that has James Wood in there as a bad guy is always good too.
James brings it.
All right. Our next one, it came out May 4th. That is actually no, sorry, May 4th. It was March 30th. This is
You and
number
I've
3.
covered Romancing the Stone.
Yes. Very good movie. I like Indiana Jones, but I thought this did pretty well for being a style kind of like Indiana Jones, similar settings and different, a little different though. More comedy. She's a journalist, or a writer, and he's just a guy. He's a thief. This is what Uncharted was kind of
A
based off
soldier
of.
of fortune, a treasure hunter, if you will,
Yes.
a seeker of fortune.
No one could imagine or survive.
You
Just
know,
everything.
I never thought he could do something like it. Michael Douglas is a tremendous actor.
No. You see him in this. You see him in Wall Street. You see him in The Game. He's just in a lot of different movies, and it's just funny to see him in this.
Kathleen Turner was smoking hot at the time, but she dials down the sexuality here and does the humdrum. I'm a bookworm getting caught up in kind of one of my own types of adventure things or whatever. It's a fantasy for chicks, but it works and it's harmless if you're a guy.
Yes, and I love the fact that they're going in their town and they're about to hold that arm, basically at gunpoint, and then he's like, and then the guy's like, "Wait, I know you. I read your book."
Michael Douglas is very good. And
All
she's
right.
good. This is cute.
Our next one is came out May 4th. Did not know this existed. Thank you, Anthony Hopkins and Mel Gibson in The Bounty.
Did you watch this?
They have not. I told you I did not know existed.
This is tremendous. This is the movie that when you watch it, really brought Anthony Hopkins, from across the pond into the American eye. I mean, he had done Magic like 5-6 years earlier, Killer Doll movie, which is very good. Mel Gibson is smoking hot, but this is such a sumptuous movie to watch. And this story's been told so many times was it the HMS Bounty and Pitcairn Island and all that stuff, and meeting all these stuff. And God, when you watch it, you don't even know what's going on. It's there's very few films that to me can compete with, say, Michael Mann's Miami Vice in terms of establishing a great atmosphere or mood. And this is one of them. But some people say Mel Gibson can act. In this movie, you see that he can act. Well, you're going up against Anthony Hopkins' prime. And it's tough, but I think he's great in the role. It's the right time of his life and acting career to be a supplicant to that. And it's a story of basically like, mutiny on a bounty. I mean, this movie, again, has been done so many times by so many actors over the years. I just think it's great. The soundtrack's phenomenal, and there's just some great visuals in it. It's one that doesn't get talked about so much so that, what really made me think this movie was about 20 years ago. And God, it's been that long when Master Commander came out.
Oh, yeah.
Fabulous movie. Not quite the same movie, right? But it just gave me that sort of feel. And I'm like, this is a gem. And at some point, if you're a movie watcher, you're going to see some version of this. And there's so many out there. Take your pick, but this is definitely not a bad one to start off. I like this movie a lot.
Definitely want to see this, and I've been told I need to watch Rob Roy.
People like it. I'm going to pick this one over Rob Roy, but it's more my type. And frankly, who doesn't want to watch a power movie as far as like, know your role, shut your mouth and do what you're supposed to say. But then you feel this kind of tension brewing and you see the effects of it on people. And that you can never get away from that. Rob Roy's more of a character kind of film.
I like period pieces too. So I mean, like going back to this, the pirates, and just the exploring the unknown. So
yeah.
All right, our next one came out May 23rd, and probably shouldn't have been explored. Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones.
Watch this movie, Dr. Jones.
Hey, come we go for a ride. I was talking to Professor Pix about this. He couldn't be there here because he's busy. So, and this this has to be a prequel, even though it's the second movie, because he said, and he made an excellent point about this movie. Indiana Jones says that he doesn't believe supernatural in this movie, but in Raiders, he saw the supernatural. He saw what happened to the Germans with the Ark of the Covenants. So this has to be a prequel. And honestly, now that I know I watched it as a prequel, I kind of like it more. Thinking about it as a prequel. If you watch this movie, then you watch Raiders, it stands out to be a little bit better. I always love it when the guys at the end on the bridge or the bad guys fall into the gators. Like, it just shows you how final death is and how brutal it is. There's no sugarcoating in it. Shotgun, who's in here too. Yeah, he ends up basically being a star of the movie. And it ends up becoming Data in the Goonies later on. And didn't care for the girl as much. She was annoying. I would have let her die. But we get the monkey brain senior. We get the bugs. We get she has to reach her hand in disgusting bugs in order to turn the lever to let them up. Otherwise, they'll get crushed by this ceiling that's coming down. So it's still got some cool stuff in here. The music, but it's not Raiders. And
it's a mess of a film to me. I don't really like it that much. At some point, like it's got a great opening number and everything. So you're like, okay, this is going to be fun. It reminds you of Raiders. And this chick's annoying. I don't know if that was his wife or girlfriend at the time or her fiance or whatever, but you can tell she was just forced to be in there for no reason. Oh, we gotta have a female. We won't pay the other one or whatever the story was. I don't know. I didn't hate Short Round. Didn't know why he was in there too. So, Spielberg or whatever, whoever did this film, it always has this fascination with kids. I didn't have a problem with it kind of being dark with some ancient religion you're not aware of, but even that just feel at that time in the 80s still felt like, yeah, you're picking on them a little bit. And but then they're goofy. And hey, I like ripping the still beating heart out of the chest as much as the next guy. That's not what belongs to an Indiana Jones film to me. It just doesn't. And it's, compared to the other films that would come later, it's not the worst by any means, right? So it's just sort of there. Thankfully, the third film would come out in a couple years. But yeah, this one, it's watchable, I guess. It had a pretty cool arcade game. It's just not that good.
All right. Moving on to a movie that I just don't care for, but that is Search for Spock, Star Trek 3. Take it away, Star Trek lover.
Star Trek 2's, canon to a lot of people. The first movies, people say they sleep through, but they said it wasn't bad because it's hard to make movies out of TV show. Remember, Star Trek did it before Mission Impossible came around in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Search for Spock. Okay, spoiler alert, they fucking find him. What else do you really remember? We remember that he died and it was really powerful and it bugged you. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's just bring his ass back. To me, if they stopped at 2, they'd have been fine. This is not a bad film, but only if you're a hardcore fan is this really worth watching. Now, they do have a great film coming up that's a lot of funny and well written, but that's just lighthearted stuff. I'm indifferent to it, really. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad film, but again, you've got to really like this stuff to be into it. Otherwise, don't bother. The second one's great. It's just unnecessary.
All right, this was June 1st. We're going on to June 8th.
Okay.
And that is Ghostbusters, which we did review the second one. But if you want to learn more about our opinions on this movie, go check out the Thunderdome episode, episode 5, which just debuted about a couple days ago, back on Tuesday. Go check that out. Yeah, great movie. Perfect cast.
The definition of fun time.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna jump over to our next film, which came out the same week. That is Top Secret. Val Kilmer, fun movie. And I never knew it was the makers of the Airplane.
Yeah. Oh so yeah,
that's probably why I liked it so much. Yeah, it's just a fun movie. Definitely, I think it's one of Val Kilmer's best roles that he's done in here. Some people say like I like more of the drama stuff. I thought this was a hit. This is. We talk about Charlie Sheen's other movie. Was that Hots? What's it called?
Loaded Weapon or whatever.
Loaded Weapon, or it was Hot Shots. Yeah.
Hot Shots.
No. Hot Shots is a dim flame compared to this.
Yeah.
This is funny. This is, to me, is right up with the Mel Brooks kind of movies. I love it.
It really showed you how good Val Kilmer can be, and I don't mean like Tombstone, like everybody likes to say, and still that was 30 years ago.
Yep.
But it was amazing with this film because it's weird humor, which chicks
Instead,
generally don't like, but
instead the
they
40s.
liked Val Kilmer so much that there's a chunk of them that liked it so much. Like, you like Top Secret? Okay, you're cool. It is a cute film, and it's gotten some love because of what Val Kilmer has gone through over the past several years, and
Yeah.
and all the re-emphasis on him and his career and how good of an actor he was, and charming and handsome young guy he was as he was in this film. He owns it. It's a very good film. It's fun.
I love that. I love the fact that also mocks the movie with Elvis Presley going, and being a soldier and stuff. It's like basically his character is basically a big pop star. They want him to go work as a spy over in Europe during World War II, and he meets a French girl, and it's just fun. Check it out.
You know what's scary though? Most young people today, who's Elvis? And they
He's
don't
that
get the going over to Europe and the French
Elvis
girl and all
Costello.
these things.
He's that
Not
guy.
Elvis Costello, you bitch. That's exactly what I mean. You know what I'm saying.
I know.
That's me sounding old.
All
All right.
right. You want to sound even older? August 10th. Red Dawn.
This is very good.
Yes.
It's really good.
Charlie Sheen, as we just talked about.
Powers Booth. So,
Just lazy.
look down there at music by Basil Polidoris. That's
Yep.
the Conan guy. That's why it's so fucking good. Look at the screenplay, John Milius. That's why it's so fucking good. You think this is a kid's film. It's not.
No.
Friggin' commies or whatever the hell they are, they're invading the USA, and damn it, they're going to fight back. Wolverines. Rah, 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 rah. This is a good film. And just as things get going, you're like, okay, they're going to kidify it and treat it like an 80s film. Wrong.
Yep.
I like this film a lot. I don't watch it a lot, but it's a very good film. When it's on, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Harry Dean Stan's in this too. We also have C.S. Thomas Howell, who was also a pretty big actor in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Swayze steals scenes he's in. Leah Thompson, Back to the Future girls in this. like I said, and then Charlie Sheen, and Powers Booth. Man, it's just fun.
Now that I'm thinking of it, I believe this came out before Invasion USA. So you could argue that this is one of those rally around America. America will defeat you.
I told you, Missing in Action, and you got these. All of a sudden, you start seeing these movies start popping up in '84.
Everybody's jealous of the U.S. and they want a piece of it, baby.
Yeah, right.
Take it.
Our final film, though, of tonight, and you can check this out also over on our latest episode of Thunderdome, October 26th. The Terminator. I'll be back.
Only in a rerun.
Yes. Fantastic film. Oh my gosh. Just watch it. It's an experience. It's better if you go into it blind, not knowing about it, and either you'll hate it, which I doubt it, or you'll love it, which I really do think you will. And now, if you have, I said, like this is pure 80s. Sarah Connor. And it said like Kyle Reese, Michael Biehn here too as well. Lance Henriksen. It is just awesome. Special effects, the music. The music is just awesome in here. I'm getting a little chub just thinking about this. I'm gonna go back and watch it again. I watched this yesterday. I'm gonna watch it again tonight. This is a fun movie.
One of the things I really didn't know about it is somebody that's associated with it. I've talked about Cameron likes to steal from other people, and of course you get influenced or whatever, but he seems to be a bit more casual about it. But Gail Ann Hurd's been involved in a lot of really good things, whether she's producing it or writing it or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, tons of movies. If you just look at her catalog, this is one of the earlier ones, but she did Aliens, The Abyss, a bunch of things too. So I don't know of her impact on what makes it that way. She was married to Brian De Palma and Cameron, of course, as Cameron always marries the women in his films. So to me, I find that somewhat interesting. It's not as obtrusive as like Temple of Doom that we just talked about. Yeah, this is we've said a lot about this film. I think it's really, really great. I think this one just edged out most of the other films that we had on this list as far as how popular and how big it is, because you know what? Once this movie was over, it kept going, just like the Terminator would not stop. People kept watching it. It keeps getting referenced. It will not, this movie will not die. It's that good. It really is. It's a lot of fun movie, and it was a little different for all the lighthearted crap that was coming out this year. It was a little more serious, a little more action oriented, of course, but it gave people a little bit of a different look on what technology is. Not war games. It means no, you're gonna have a better assassin, and what better one to have than Arnold? All right, any final thoughts here on these films of 1984 RDV?
Not much. Honestly, I think that if you guys haven't already watched these films, go check them out. And yeah, and then we ask you down below, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And I honestly did. Let us know what you thought. What you thought of these movies or lists. We just gave you 24 movies from 1984. Tell us what should be it's on your top 10.
If there's one that you want us to review because maybe you saw it recently, you're thinking about it, or
Yep.
based on our conversations, you're intrigued by it, let us know. We'll do a deep dive. A few films we may have already done years ago, we plan on revisiting a lot of them because you know what? 80s films are so fun.
Mm-hmm.
It really is pretty cool. And of course, we're recording this offline tonight only just because we have Super Bowl commitments coming up on Sunday. And then we're back to doing our Thunderdome matchup of two movies enters, one movie leaves.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's going to be Back to the Future versus something else for 1985, but we'll see that on a short list because there has to be a winner and loser, no participation trophies. And then, of course, a week from now on Sunday, we'll be doing our top, I hate to say top 10, but 10 films of 1985 with several runners. Another stellar year of movie making. Anything you need to plug, RDV?
Nope, that's it. Let's get going.
All right. Good night now.
Go Chiefs!